Hey everyone, I'm Joe Braun, founder of Solume, and today I'm going to tell you something most HOA boards never hear, even when they've already looked into HOA or condo software. I'm going to give you the insider perspective no other video will tell you. Because here's the secret. Most software that claims to be built for managing condos or HOAs actually wasn't built for condos or HOAs at all. A lot of it started as rental property software or as a banking tool designed to funnel HOAs into a specific financial ecosystem, or as some 1990s legacy system that got a fresh coat of paint from some big VC firm. But almost none of them were built from the ground up for the real day-to-day challenges HOA and condo board members face. Solume was. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what to look for, what traps to avoid, and what features actually matter, and why 70% of HOA software feels the same, but the last 30% is what makes or breaks your community. So let's dive in. Let's start with this. It shouldn't be this hard to manage a community, but it is. Because too many boards are dealing with outdated tools, scattered information, and software that was never built for them in the first place. And sure, every board has the obvious surface level problems, the ones everyone can see, right? You've got accounting that feels like it was stitched together from 3 different eras, or communication that never seems to reach the right people, maintenance requests slipping through the cracks that you didn't even know existed, and residents who feel frustrated because they feel like nobody's telling them anything. But beneath all of that, the part most people never say out loud are the internal problems, how it really makes you feel. The ones that hit you emotionally the moment they show up, they trigger something inside of you. It's the fear of signing up for another management company that promises the world but delivers a headache. The frustration of trying to reach support and getting a chatbot or a 3-day wait times. That hesitation about switching platforms because you picture yourself drowning in onboarding tasks. It's the moment of embarrassment when a resident asks you information and you can't find it. It's the stress of spending hours every month doing what should have been automated years ago. And it's the quiet little voice in the back of your mind that says, why is it so freaking complicated? It shouldn't be this hard. Let me show you exactly what I mean. There's a board in Atlanta who came to us while using a platform that was originally built for rental portfolios, not HOAs. And the holes were obvious the moment we walked through their workflow together. Their so-called all-in-one platform couldn't track amenities correctly. They had no visibility into the reserve study. They were managing violations manually like it was 1998, and every homeowner in the system was treated like a tenant, not an owner of a property in the community. Their financial reports didn't tie into long-term planning, their documents were scattered across different systems, and every small change required emailing support and waiting, sometimes days, for a response. When they saw Solume and saw how everything tied together in one place, they realized they weren't just missing tools, they were flying blind. Now, let's compare that to a condo treasurer in Florida who came to us in what I would call just full crisis mode. Special assessments were piling up, they had lawsuits, deferred maintenance was everywhere, there was no financial forecasting. They did have a PDF reserve study, but nobody, including the property manager, was paying it much attention. There was no visibility. It was too cumbersome of a process that they just ignored it. He looked exhausted when we first spoke, like he had been carrying the weight of his entire community on his shoulders. And when he saw how Solume handles reserve studies and long-term forecasting, he said something that I will never forget. He said, if we had found Solume 5 years ago, we wouldn't be in this mess. We'll come back to the story in a little bit. At this point, most videos are going to toss a generic features list at you. I'm not going to do that because dashboards, online payments, communication tools, document storage, let's be honest, every platform has these, or at least should have these. If that's all you evaluate, you'll end up choosing software that maybe looks great on the surface, but it fails you where it matters most. That's sort of like comparing a Nissan Sentra to a Hyundai Elantra when you're staring at crossing the Rocky Mountains in the dead of winter during a blizzard. You need something to get the job done and done right. So let me teach you how to think a little differently, a little like an insider. If you want the best HOA software, start with the features that determine whether your community thrives or collapses. Number one, reserve study management and financial forecasting. This is the single biggest indicator of whether your community is stable or it's heading towards a financial disaster, which causes all sorts of other problems. Most software doesn't even touch it. Legacy systems pretend it doesn't exist. But the truth is simple. If you're not proactively managing your reserves, you're gambling with your community's future. Solume lets you see how reserve funds are trending, model long-term projects, predict assessments before they happen, and make decisions with real data. Let me show you how this works. All right, before we actually look at Solume's dashboard, I want to give you just a sense of what a typical reserve study looks like. It has a lot of data that's spread out over, in this case, 60 some pages of a PDF that makes it very difficult to really get a sense of what it is you need to be doing. Yes, it's very helpful information, and I think that communities should have reserve studies conducted, but there's a lot of flipping back and forth between stuff. So if you want to see what is coming up in 2031 or 2027, whatever it is, you have to kind of look at that and say, okay, we've got to have this much money. Now let's come down to that year and find out what it is that needs to be done, and then come back up over to here to find out, okay, when's the next time that thing needs to be done. So the reason why communities often ignore these, as well as property managers, is simply because they are cumbersome. They're very difficult to deal with. So I want to show you now what Solume's dashboard looks like. All right, we're not going to cover all of these because those are for other videos and not features we're looking at. But right now, I'm just going to draw your attention to a few things on this reserve study dashboard. So you can hear that this reserve study was conducted in 2023. It's a 40-year reserve study. You can see here that this community had $57,000 in the account. That's their starting balance, and they average a $10,000 contribution every year into this account. So we have think of your assets as your amenities and your elements as the individual items within those amenities. So if you have a clubhouse, you don't just have a clubhouse, you have ceiling fans and toilets and HVAC systems and all of these things that belong to the actual clubhouse. And you can see here what things are needed in a given year that need to be addressed. You can look here at the per year basis. So we'll come down here and we'll just look at what's going on at any given year. So if we want to see what's happening, say in 2028, we can come down here and just click on this, dial into 2028 and see what are the items that are coming up. All right, the pickleball courts need to be replaced, etc. You can see here that there's no budget line items or transactions. You can open up a procurement request. So if this item needs to be addressed sooner, you can open up a work order with a vendor that you have already selected. But if we come back to here, I want to draw your attention to this dashboard here, because right here, this is telling you that this particular community's annual reserve fund contribution is insufficient to meet the projected expenses and will result in a $30,000 shortfall in 2025. Now, again, this is a 2023 reserve study. So you could see here that this gray line is what their community's financial situation should look like. According to best practice and CAI's recommendations, this is what their balance should look like, but this is what their balance will actually look like if nothing changes. And again, you can kind of see here that they'll scrape by in 2025, which is what that's telling you right up here. But then by 2028, 2029, certainly by 2031, there is a major shortage going on. So what we're going to do is we're going to open up this scenario explorer, and we'll start to play with some numbers here. Let's just go into 2025 and say, okay, maybe we're not going to add $10,000. Maybe let's add another $20,000. So we're going to go from 10,000 up to 30,000. And is that solving our problem? No, that doesn't really solve the problem at all. It kind of gets us a little bit closer. Now, if you look at this line here is fictional, right? If you change these numbers over here, that line. So just for the sake of showing you, if I come into 2026 and say we're going to add $50,000 to that, you can see now that that line skyrockets, right? So maybe we don't want to add 50,000. Maybe we'll just add another 20,000 to that. All right, so we're getting better, right? These things are starting to go down. We don't solve all the problems, but we're getting better. So let's go into 2027, and we'll do another, $20,000 of an increase. You can see that these lines are starting to get back to normal, or starting to get where they should. We're recovering money, and by the time 2033, 31, somewhere in there turns around, we're in much better shape, but we're barely scraping by still in 2025, 2026. So obviously, because we're at the end of 2025, this is not doing us any good. They're already behind. Let's just go to 2026 and say, okay, let's do this at 30,000. Does that solve our problem? Okay, we can't fix 2025. 2026, it looks like it barely scrapes by. So what this does is it just allows you to play with these numbers a little bit and kind of see what your financial situation might look like if you start to add more money into your reserves. Again, if you do nothing, this is what this community's financial situation would look like. If you do what these scenarios give you as options, then your financial situation starts to look like you're in a much healthier place. Again, this is completely different than what you're going to expect to see in a PDF or maybe an Excel spreadsheet. They are very cumbersome and difficult to know what needs to be done. Also, if we come over to procurement, you can see here that this is telling us that these items are scheduled to be replaced or are supposed to be replaced, but we don't have any procurement requests attributed to them. So what we would do at that point is we would open a new procurement request here. Or as I said, if we come back to the reserve study, you can open it up directly within the individual year. So if we come down to say 2027 and we want to see, okay, what's going on in 2027, we can see all these items that need to be addressed here. So let's just say, let's look at the clubhouse siding and trim. We can go ahead and dial into that, and we can create a procurement request directly within there. So I know I just quickly went through this, but I can assure you this is far better and far more intricate and far easier to manage your reserve study than trying to do it through Excel spreadsheets or a PDF. It's much easier. Number 2, AI legal compliance. Boards everywhere are facing legal obligations they don't fully understand. Florida, for example, has its SURS compliance. California has SB 326. Other states have mandatory reserve cycles. And here's the part that scares boards. You're responsible. Even if nobody told you, even if you're under management, read the fine print. You're on the hook if something goes wrong. That's why we built Solume Assistant. You type any question about your community or your state laws, and you get instant legal direction. No waiting, no guessing, no sending it to an attorney who's just going to read your governing documents and charge you $600 for it. And certainly not to mention the countless hours you'll save by having to sift through pages of PDFs to find that one answer to a question that gets texted to you in the middle of dinner or your kid's soccer game. Not that that's ever happened to me. Again, let me show you how this feature works. When it comes to compliance or just basic questions about your community, our AI platform just makes this 1,000 times easier. We do always have this disclaimer down here that says if you have a very legitimate legal question or a very legitimate thing that you're concerned about, consult an attorney. Don't leverage AI for something because that could cause all sorts of problems. But what it does do is it answers questions to give you a good direction of where you might need to be heading. So if we come down here, let's just ask a simple question. This is something that's very simple, like, what are the approved paint colors for our community? So if we send that, again, this AI model is trained to only pull answers from your community's bylaws. It's not just making this up. This isn't hallucinating like your standard ChatGPT. It's pulling the answers directly from your community's bylaws and CC&Rs. Well, let's ask another question that's maybe more of a legal question, right? So let's ask, what are the reserve study laws in Georgia? So it's now knowing to pull from the Georgia state laws, right? It's telling us that the Georgia Property Association Act defines a property owners association as that. The act does not explicitly mention reserve studies or requirements for associations to conduct reserve studies. So you can see how this can be a time saver when it comes to basic questions or very legitimate legal questions. Another one that might come up is something like a noise complaint, right? So what do I do if my neighbor's dog is barking all night long? So it's telling us here, this is what they recommend being done. Refer to the noise and nuisance restrictions section in the CC&Rs. It's telling you what the quiet hours are and that there's a $75 fine for barking that exceeds 45 decibels. Contact the board if you need to. As I said, if you have a very legitimate legal question, please do consult an attorney. Don't leverage AI. But for basic questions about your community and how it operates or basic laws, this just is a time saver and a money saver. And number 3, real all-in-one integration. A lot of platforms claim to be all-in-one until you discover you still need QuickBooks or a violation tracker, an email tool, file storage, and spreadsheets to handle everything else. At that point, you're not really saving anything. You're duct taping your HOA together. Solume connects everything naturally. Finances talk to reserves, communications talks to documents, maintenance talks to projects. It's all one ecosystem. Most HOA boards think their choices come down to accounting tools like QuickBooks, property management software built for large firms, legacy HOA systems with slick marketing, or bare bones budget tools with hidden limitations. But once you peel back the layers, the picture gets clearer. QuickBooks is great for accounting, but it's terrible for HOA management. It gives you a third of the picture. Property management software is built for full-time employees. If you're a volunteer, it feels like trying to fly a commercial jet. Legacy platforms love to boast about having 30,000 communities, but here's the insider truth. Most of those systems were built in the 90s and buried under interface updates. And budget options seem cheap until you realize that everything you actually need is locked behind a paywall. At that point, you've spent more time and money than if you had just chosen a real HOA platform. Solume doesn't play that game. We customize our pricing, but every customer gets every feature. No hidden fees, no nickel and diming. So what that means is if your community really is interested in Solume, but is financially not in a place to do it, but you need it, we'll work with you. So what makes Solume different? First, we were built only for HOAs and condos, not retrofitted from banking and rentals. Second, we offer the 2 features that actually determine the success of your community: reserve study with financial forecasting and AI legal compliance. Third, our support team is 100% US based. Real board members and property managers and tech experts who understand what you're dealing with and give you direction from all the different aspects. Fourth, our development cycle is fast. Legacy systems move slow. We build what our customers need, and if we don't have it, we're nimble enough to build it for your community. And finally, Solume is intuitive. If you can use Amazon, Google, or Facebook, you can run your HOA. Let's go back to that board member in Florida that I told you about. When he came to us, his community was drowning. Special assessments, lawsuits, deferred maintenance, no forecasting, no reserve visibility. He was carrying the emotional and operational weight of a community falling apart. And after seeing Solume's forecasting and reserve study tools, he said the line that still hits me. I told you this earlier. He said, if we found Solume 5 years ago, we wouldn't be in this mess. That's exactly why we built Solume, to change the trajectory of communities before things fall apart. So when you're evaluating the best HOA software, here's what I want you to remember. It's not about who has the flashiest dashboard. It's not about who claims to have the most features. And it's definitely not about who shows up first in a Google ad. It's about the ease of use, it's about automation, financial clarity, it's about legal compliance and confidence. It's about communication that actually works. And it's about whether the tool you're choosing is going to reduce your workload or quietly add to it. Here's my honest take. Would it be a ridiculous idea to spend 15 minutes seeing a platform that could save you dozens of hours a month, prevent costly mistakes, and finally give your board the clarity it's been missing? If you're curious, even slightly, book a quick demo. No pressure, no hard pitch, just a quick look at how Solume might be able to help you. I'll walk you through it personally, or someone from our team will, and you'll know within minutes whether Solume is the right fit for your community. The link's in the description. Thanks for watching, and I look forward to meeting you.